Do you want to leave behind a better world for your children and for your grandchildren? Well, I think we all do. All decent people do. And so today I want to kind of look at some of the things that will maybe tie up into a nice package, some of the things we've been discussing in the last week or two, and specifically as it pertains to our change of leadership, but going way beyond that into a change of life if it's needed. And again, the idea is we want to leave a better world behind. And so I think we've had a good start recently. I don't know what your political background is or your political persuasions are, and really I don't much care. I think each one of us does the best we can with the information that we have. But I'm really delighted that we have a change in direction, because the direction we were on was reckless. It was dangerous. It was harmful to our children. Our public schools, which were one of the best things about the United States of America for so many years, one of the things that really gave us an advantage on the worldwide scene, because our children were being educated, they were being taught things that were important to learn, and we were producing wonderful people that were capable of everything from building bridges to practicing medicine to sending men to the moon. But something happened to that wonderful education system. Right after World War II, we had some wicked men that were in the Supreme Court, and they ruled that having God within the schools was unconstitutional. And it started just with a simple passing of a law in 1946, but it continued all the way to 1963. And since then, a lot of laws have been passed, a lot of rulings have been made that have kind of cemented what they did. But essentially what they did was they removed God from the schools and even from parts of the public square. And so, starting in the early 1960s, we had a turning in America. Children who could go to school and learn about God, who had the Ten Commandments posted on the walls at school, who would begin their day with prayer, now no longer had those advantages. They removed God from the school and they replaced him with a secular humanism, an idea that we're just here as some sort of a random accident or a result of a random series of accidents. And the void that was left by removing God from our schools could only be replaced with the devil. And so, in the name of science, a lot of things have been taught that are just absolutely unbiblical. And not just that, but they are amoral and sometimes immoral. And so there was a sexual revolution. There was a drug explosion in the 1960s. And people just started doing what they wanted. The motto was, if it feels good, do it. And they did. And society began to deteriorate. I don't think it was our teachers' fault. Don't get me wrong on this. I think most people, when they go into teaching, they do so because they want to make a difference for the next generation. They want to make a difference in the lives of children. But they have been handicapped by not being able to make a difference with God as they teach them the other important things they need to learn. And while it's true, our public schools were never designed to be Bible schools, they certainly included God and the Bible within it as part of our society in which we lived. When that was removed, things started to deteriorate, and we ended up to what we essentially have today. We have elected so many people in the past 40 or 50 years who really have been in it more for the hope of gaining power and wealth, and they've done very well at that. Part of their mode of operation is to separate the people. You play good cop, we'll play bad cop, and vice versa. And they've done very well. They've kept us distracted from the things that are going on until we came to the point where we're teaching our children that they can't even tell the difference between a boy and a girl. How can we produce good medical students when they don't even know what a boy or a girl is. And so we just got out of hand. We opened up our borders because we have aborted so many of our own children. The leaders thought they needed to bring in new taxpayers, new voters, and they've done that. But they've also done it in such a reckless manner that it's brought a lot of crime into America. And why not? If you're coming in illegally, any other crimes aren't going to seem that big of a deal after that. And we've just kind of deteriorated society. And so I believe that we have a new chance with a new leadership. I don't know how good they are going to be. I don't know if they'll be successful, at least in going the direction that we all hope they go in. But I can say this, they're going to be better than what we had, because what we had was a guarantee of going in the same direction. And now we have a little bit of hope. Our responsibility is to hold the new leaders' feet to the fire, to hold them accountable, not to just support them because they're our guy or our gal, but to make sure that they really do go in a direction that's good for the nation. Now, having said that, after digressing along that path for a while, I want to get to the real purpose of the video today. If you and I want to leave a better world for our children and for our grandchildren, that means we are going to have to become a better person, a better servant of God ourselves. Parents, do you drink a little? If you do, your children are probably going to drink a lot. You use a little bad language every once in a while when you're angry. If you do, your children are probably going to grow up using even more bad language. We've seen this pattern through the years, haven't we? Do you have a disdain for authority? Well, they'll probably have that same disdain. And while there are some authorities that do not deserve respect, that disdain for authority has been seeping over into a disdain for God's authority. So, we need to get our lives right. We need to get our lives cleaned up, men and women, if we're going to leave behind a better world for our children and our grandchildren. And then, the most important, we have to be right spiritually before God. And that requires a lot of hard work. It requires effort. It requires intentional living for them. You're going to have to start setting aside time for the worship each week. It's going to have to become a focal point for you, an area of importance for you, or it will never be an area of importance for your children. Daddies, if you whine and complain when Mama wakes you up in the morning to go to worship on a Sunday, what kind of example are you leaving for your children? You're telling them that worship is something that is unnecessary and unpleasant. When they get out of the house, they're not going to be able to wait to get away from going to worship. On the other hand, mamas and daddies, if it's something that's a focal point of our week, if we talk about it, if we talk about why we go to worship and to Sunday school and to Bible class, and we let our children know how important learning about God is and worshiping with the church is, I believe that we're going to leave behind them a legacy that will endure. But it has to go way beyond just getting up and going to worship once a week. It has to be something that's part of our lives. We have to, when we wake up in the morning, begin the day with prayer and asking God and treating Him humbly for help, being thankful for what He's given to you. We need to be praying at the meal times, and it needs to be something that has thought and depth to it, not just a prayer that we say by rote that's the same every time. We need to teach our children that prayer is actually talking to the Maker of the universe, to our holy God, to the Father of Jesus Christ. And so we need to be praying to Him thoughtfully, intentionally, thankfully, through Jesus. And we need to be reading the Word. We need to be doing it every day. You need to be as regular with your Bible reading as you are with your meals. You eat every day, well, feed your soul spiritually every day from the Word. Some days you won't have as much time as others. We understand that. But we need to take the time to read and then go beyond just reading and to study to find out what it really says. And then we need to share that with our children. We need to be reading them from the Bible at the earliest of age. We started, my wife and I, with just a Bible book. It was a good scriptural Bible book, and it was interesting to the kids, had pictures and everything. And as they grew up, we advanced to just reading the scriptures every day. That became a pattern for us. Every one of our children, before they left the house, had read through the Bible. They still read through the Bible on a regular basis now that they're apart. It was a pattern that needed to be established. It was a gift that we gave to them, and it's a gift that they're now passing on to their children, our grandchildren. And we're sure glad that we took the time to do that. But the point of all this, you want to leave behind a better world, then you need to start making yourself better now, a better servant of God, a loving, happy, joyful servant of God. You need to be showing your children that this really is the best way to live, and your friends that this is the best way to live. It results in a happy life, not in a miserable life where we look like we've been sucking on a pickle every day when we're trying to go spread the good news of Jesus Christ. Something a little bit twisted in that, isn't there? But once we have changed our life, once we have turned our lives over to God, and once we have taught our children to do the same, well, this will go farther, way farther, in leaving behind a better world than anything we can do or hope from by voting and putting in new leaders. Both are important, but you start with yourself. There will be times where you think it's too much, where you wonder if the price is too high. Remember what the price of your soul was. God loved you so much that he allowed Jesus to die on the cross for you. He gave his only begotten Son for you. That's a high price. Jesus loved us so much that he laid down his life for us, whom he called his friends. That's a high price. You and I can spend a little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra effort, a little bit of extra thought into serving the Lord in the way that he needs to be served, that he deserves to be served, and that Jesus deserves to be served. And then we need to be teaching our children to do the same, and we grandparents need to take our opportunities with our grandchildren. We can leave behind a better world than we found. But so far, I don't believe we're doing a very good job of it when you look at the way things are right now. There's a glimmer of hope. I believe that our nation has had just about enough of this slide into immorality that we've been on for the last 40 or 50 years. But now let's make sure that we keep that momentum. Let's make sure that our leaders know what we expect them to do, that we encourage them when they're doing right, that we chastise them when they're doing wrong. And then more than anything else, let's make sure our lives are right before God and Christ, because they deserve it. And our children deserve it. And our children and our grandchildren deserve the better world that we can help leave behind if we'll just make sure that we get our lives right before God in every area that we possibly can. Because the bottom line is this: we really, while we want to leave a better world behind, more than anything, what we really want to do is to prepare our children and our grandchildren for heaven. If they're faithful to God, God is guaranteed to be faithful to them and reward them with heaven someday. Through his extreme love for us, his tremendous grace that he's extended in mercy, and by the blood of Christ that was shed for our sins, we have an opportunity for heaven forever. You don't deserve it, but there's the offer. We have our part to do, so let's do it. And let's leave behind a better world. You'll be glad you did. And someday your children and your grandchildren may just thank you in that next place, that eternal place that we all hope to be someday. Thanks for listening today. I hope this is something that helps. If it does help you and you think it might help others, do me a favor and share it with them. If you'll like the channel, if you'll subscribe to the channel, it'll get it around to more people, and I'd surely appreciate that. But truly appreciate your taking time out of your schedule today to listen to this message. And I hope that it helps, and I hope we'll see you tomorrow. God bless.